I'm offering a lot to serve the city that people don't even get, you know, and I already have, you know, they don't know the things running into burning buildings and all that kind of stuff we do, you know, for clowns like this to be running the city into the ground. So that's the only thing that really frustrates me is when I'm in a crowd that doesn't know me. Well, yeah, but you know, what they view me as another politician. And I get it. I'm a guy running for an office. So I am, but I'm not a politician. I don't want to do this. I want to just because I want to fix our city and I can't stand seeing people die.
This episode is brought to you by Trident Coffee, the veteran-owned brand where every sip inspires you to live life full steam ahead. I've been drinking their coffees for a while now, and I'm glad to partner with a company whose products I use. At Trident, they're more than just coffee, they're storytellers. Crafted by veterans, their instant cold brew is perfect for those who serve, those who have served, and anyone who values wellness. Featuring natural ingredients like organic mushrooms, adaptogens, and nootropics, it's more than just a morning pick-me-up. It's your new wellness ritual. Enjoy it at home or on the go, wherever your day takes you. Trident Coffee isn't just about great tasting coffee. It's about empowering you to be the healthiest version of yourself. Because great veterans make great citizens. Try their instant cold brew today, along with many other coffee products, and taste the freedom of wellness. Remember, when you choose Trident, you're not just choosing coffee. You're choosing a path of connection through health and wellness. Head on over to tridentcoffee.com and use the promo code TDP15 for 15% off your order. Again, that's TDP15 for 15% off your order. This episode is brought to you by Softlead, a tactical fitness company founded by special operations soldiers. Softlead is dedicated to helping you achieve a healthy lifestyle. From expertly crafted training programs to high-quality proteins, pre-workouts, and sleep and recovery supplements, they've got everything you need to power through your day. Softlead also has a full line of clothing. They have you covered from shorts to cold weather gear. Embracing the motto, Die Living, Softlead inspires us all to embrace life with vigor and resilience. So take the first step towards a healthier you. Visit Softlead.com, that's SOFLETE.com, and use the promo code TDP2024 to get 20% off your order. Again, that's TDP2024 for 20% off your order. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm joined this time by a retired Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel. However, after he retired, he wasn't done serving his community. So he became a cop in San Diego 10 years ago. But then that wasn't enough. Seeing what was going on in his city, seeing the decline of San Diego, he decided, well, he was equally encouraged to do something more about it. So he's currently running for the mayor of the city of San Diego. He's not a politician. He's truly an independent. And what's even better is he's upsetting the apple cart because he's either, depending on what you read, really neck and neck in the polls, or even has a slight lead. This was a fun conversation, so let's get into it. Here's episode 164 with Larry Turner.
You know what I saw? I'd always heard Joe Rogan reference it, but how he'd gone on with Tom Green, isn't that the guy's name? The old comedian from like the 90s. And that was one of the first podcasts that was not semi-famous, like when the internet first kicked off. And I just saw it. Somebody had a clip of him on that podcast, and he looks so young, you know, and he's literally like saying, wow, they got to figure out a way to monetize this. And it's a funny clip. I just saw it, I think yesterday. And, like I said, Rogan looks so young, and the guy is explaining it to him. Oh yeah, no, we do this and people can watch us. And this is how it works. He was explaining how it works. And like Joe Rogan didn't know, that's how when he was on the show, that's how he learned about it.
Well, and if you really look back and if you've listened to his podcast and followed it for a long time, he's been in the podcast game forever. I want to say 2008, 2009 is when he kicked his off. Yeah. And so when people say, oh, he's making all but he's been grinding at it for a long time before he made his money. Yeah, yeah. But the other thing too is he was one of the early ones to adopt video too. Yeah. But the early video days were him with almost kind of like a webcam sitting in one chair, and the other two guys were. So he's always been on the forefront of everything.
That's cool.
And so, as a podcaster, he becomes the barometer that everybody's measuring themselves for. Yeah. Not that there aren't there's probably great podcasts,
thousands that are just as good or better, and they just got to get that spark, to catch on fire, and everybody hears them. Yeah.
So let's get into you.
Sure.
Let's start way back at the beginning. Talk to me about where you were born, where you grew up.
All right. Yeah. Northern California, born in Mountain View, but that's not really where I was from. We just, that whole Bay Area, San Jose area, all the little towns around there. So, earliest remember, areas around Gilroy and Livermore and Tracy and those places. Lived in Turlock. We almost that farming area, but we moved around a lot. We lived further south, further north, but the majority of it's that Central Valley area and the Bay Area around San Jose.
What took your family up there?
My dad's family all moved out from Oklahoma originally when he was little, and it was churches. His dad was a pastor, and they were just worked for the national headquarters of the church, and they would send him from church to church, and so he moved a lot growing up. But that's what brought them from Oklahoma to California, and I think it was on the Stockton area for a little while. And my mom's family from Kansas to that area, and her family was all preachers and stuff too. And they just bumped into each other at a thing where my grandfather, my dad's dad, was preaching like as a guest at another church where my mom's family was, and they fell in love. They were married like a couple months later, and then she's pregnant like a month after that. And so they've known me as long as they've known each other almost. Yeah.
Did your dad follow in his dad's footsteps and go into the religion business?
No. We went to church, and he was the music leader at our church and that kind of thing, but never preaching. And he like taught Sunday school, that kind of thing. But car business, always a car business. They got his first real good gig at a Pontiac and Oldsmobile place up in the Bay Area somewhere, and was just doing like service department stuff, and was making crazy money for a young, you didn't need college back then. Right. You just didn't know how to do your thing. So, he had a cool car and all that as a young single guy. But then he got married, and then it was, you got to start buying diapers. But he just stayed in the car business, and always wanted to buy his own dealership someday. So he was just hustling because he didn't come from money. So he was just trying to, do it with his work ethic and get some creative financing with some dealer who didn't have a son who was going to take it over or something, So he was always hunting for that one that would maybe work with him on a deal, to buy it.
Service in your dad from your dad's side? Was he in the military?
No. He had a messed up knee that nowadays would be no big deal probably, but back then they would fillet it open, and you're in the hospital for 2 or 3 weeks, and he was not able to go back then. But yeah, it's probably a nothing surgery nowadays, and you're just in what they call it, outpatient. And but yeah, he's the only one. His brother, my mom's brothers, everybody else had done military service, and most of the people before that were church service. They kind of just volunteered in their community through the church side of the house.
For you growing up, second question to that, big family for you, brothers, sisters?
Yeah, just one brother, so it's just the two of us. That was it. He died a few years ago, and so it's just been me, and he has 3 kids. So, they're a big part of the family and all that also, and their kids. But just me and my brother Michael for most of the ride until recently.
What were you like as kids? Good kids? Troublemakers?
No, yeah, good kids. All kids get in trouble and do some stuff, but like the trouble we got in was so minuscule. I laugh at it now. If you try a cigarette or or you tried a beer, that was you said a naughty word. It was like we were pretty good, but we were very different. He was the thespian musician guy playing instruments and starting bands and trying to find his way in that world, in the entertainment field. And I was just sports and, thinking about the military and police and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
What sports did you play?
Younger, I wrestled a lot. But then we ended up moving to a place where they didn't have wrestling anymore. So just pretty much in high school, we didn't have football at our high school, really small school. So it was just soccer, basketball, and baseball. That was the 3 sports we had. And so I played all 3 of those. I sucked at basketball. I just did it just to have something to do.
Where'd you end up graduating high school from?
Well, I didn't. I ended up just taking the California high school proficiency exam. I was out of the GED, and I talked to a college that I was going to just go to instead of my senior year of high school. And I was just eager to get away from the small school and just go start living life. So, I was a big fish in the small pond with sports there. It was very easy to be all league and all that there. So, and hit home runs off of easy pitches. And so I didn't really care to stay there. So, took that and then went to, I'm trying to remember the name of the junior college. I had to go to a junior college because I didn't have those 4th year requirements to get into a university. So I went to De Anza College. It's in Cupertino. I did that for a year and then went to San Jose State for a year, transferred. And then I transferred back to a place called Cal State Stanislaus. It's up in Turlock.
So you still wanted to stay in the area? You weren't looking at colleges out of state or anything like that?
Well, we didn't have money for that. In-state college tuition used to be super cheap back then. I think it was like $800 or $900 a semester. That was it. So, and if your parents lived down the road from it and, you could walk or ride a bicycle there, then you didn't have to worry about that either. So yeah, that money made the big decision. I would have loved to have gone to University of Hawaii, or Miami or something. And I remember going down, there was no internet. So there was a big catalog at the library, which was just right down the street from my house. So I was at the library a lot and on all the colleges in the US. And I remember looking through it and I remember on one of the pages seeing the Citadel. I thought, that sounds really cool, and then I don't know why, but it sticks out in my head. It was like $24,000 a year, which is nothing now
comparatively.
But back then, staying in town, was $900 a semester, and going there was $24,000 plus, then room and board on top of all that too. So yeah, I just quickly thought, yeah, forget about it. Nobody in my family had gone to college either, so it wasn't like, I had nobody saying, well, you need to go to a bigger name school. It was just go to one. It didn't matter. Didn't matter what your degree was in, just go get a degree. So I don't share that same philosophy now. I'm telling younger people, don't go to college unless you want to do these, you want to study these things, do that on the side, take some classes, and learn a trade and that sort of thing. But that was parents who hadn't gone to college before telling me, just go anywhere and get a degree.
And I fall into that same trap. My dad didn't go to college himself, never talked to me about going to college. It was when you get out of high school, go get a job. That was his mentality.
Yeah.
So when I had kids from the time they were very young, it was, no, go to college. College is important. And that's one of the things now, 20 years later, that I'm looking back going, I wish I would have been more, hey, follow your heart.
Yeah.
See what you want to do when you come out of high school. If you don't know, or whatever you want to do doesn't require a degree, there's no reason to just arbitrarily go to college.
Right.
And it's really sad when you think about talking about in-state tuition. For some of the degrees, I think education should be free. There's no detriment to giving somebody more education, but have a laundry list. You want a degree in 16th century English literature, you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
You want to get a degree in accounting.
Yeah.
You want to get a degree in architecture, something like that, that's going to benefit the community.
Right.
I think it should be free. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I dig that. I mean, they have a lot of community college classes to, help better people with those skills. So yeah, I'm down for that. I mean, we'd probably have to go back though and just make the high schools a little bit better, because the colleges are really just teaching that basic English and writing skills that you should have had back in 8th grade, and nobody has them anymore. But yeah, I'm down for that. I think unless you're doing STEM or law or accounting, then yeah, even, I always say, like, on a history degree, that's cool. I mean, but you can do a lot of that on YouTube and read the textbooks and go to some seminars and travel the world and go to those locations and see those things and take the tours. And, they'll probably have a better education than the person with the bachelor's degree.
Well, it's kind of like your second career now, my primary career, getting the degree in criminal justice.
Yeah.
What is that? Even being a cop, it doesn't really serve you.
People think it does, though. They're always like, oh, so that helped you. Yeah. No, it didn't at all. Yeah.
It checks a box that you have the degree.
Right.
That, and that for a lot of companies, that's all they're looking for, is just check the box.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty expensive and time consuming to show you are committed because you spent 4 years doing something. I mean, you could have done a cool sabbatical somewhere, backpack across Europe and Asia. That would have been, I would rather hire that guy, the kind of worldly experience they'd have.
You just bring up something interesting. I don't think there are any kids who do any type of that. Hey, I'm going to go to Europe after high school and throw a backpack on and figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah, I know. With my kids, my older ones, they were playing sports, and so there's no time to do that. So I wish there was. I tried to. Any kid I know, like my nephews, when they were going to school and before they got a job and get into a union and then you're just sucked into life. The next 50 years are already like accounted for now. And it's like, dude, go do this. Well, I can't afford it. We'll pay for it. It's not going to cost much. You get the hostel pass and the train pass and just go. I tried to get them to walk that Camino de Santiago with me because I always wanted to go do that. And I'm like, well, let's just go do that for a few months and then see if you like that. No, I'm busy and I got a girlfriend now. And they just, they'll probably have 3 or 4 kids pretty soon. And, it's just life's kind of, you're just stuck now. So I wish kids did that more. I guess joining the military is kind of that adventure. But no, I would love to see my little kids do that someday. We'll give them every opportunity to. And it's scary, the world's a dangerous place, right? And some of those countries aren't as safe as they used to be. Used to talk about going to Italy or Paris, and now it's, you got to have your head on a swivel in some of those towns. I mean, they're as bad as what Cairo and other places had been.
And that's the unfortunate thing too, is obviously times change. Yeah. Things are different, like you said. And I have a friend of mine that we were cops together years ago, and she walked away from the career to be a full-time mom. Yeah. But when she came out of college, she went and did the backpacking across Europe, and she told stories like, they bought the Euro Pass, so they had unlimited access to the train. Yeah. And what they would do is they would get on a train and go, okay, at the end of the day, where's the farthest we could go overnight? And basically slept on the train, and they would get off in that city and, hang out kind of deal.
Hotel money.
Yeah. And so you think of just kind of that vagabond spirit. And then you mentioned the Camino del Santiago. She's as an adult recently, she's gone back and done those too. So awesome. I think some people have that vagabond in them. Some people just, like you said, you get locked into that good paying job, the family, and pretty soon you're like, where'd those last 40 years go?
Yeah, you're 30 something, you got kids and braces and all those other bills you got to have. It's sad. I mean, but yeah, I would much rather see a kid who doesn't know what he wants to do, obviously get a trade, but if they want to take that time and they're responsible enough, if they were in my family, I'd help them out with financing that experience building trip, that would be fantastic.
When you decided to kind of, and I'll call it forego your senior year. Yeah. Take the test, move on. What were your parents' perspective on that? Were they supportive?
Oh yeah, 100%. So, it was just, Matt, he wants to go to college sooner? Oh, of course. Yeah, go. It was just, I was going to say, I was trying to work a deal with the school. I remember at the time, I had not thought about just leaving school my senior year. I had thought about doing half and half, and they do a lot of that nowadays. But back then that was kind of a new idea, and I kind of thought of it on my own.
What year is this for reference?
1987.
Okay, so you and I graduated.
Yeah, so I was going to graduate in 88.
Okay.
So in end of my junior year, toward the end of it, I was working with them on this plan. I said, hey, you have these 3 required classes, and they were always after lunch. And I said, what if I went to the junior college in the morning? Because a lot of guys just took like yearbook, PE, they had these, BS classes. They don't really matter. I would go to the college instead, and I pitched this to the dean at the school. And, they'd never heard anybody want to do that before. And then they turned it down. But in my research of the junior college, they had told me, well, you just need to take this GED or the high school exam. And so I started thinking, well, screw you guys. I'm just not going to do it at all. If you're not going to allow me to do half and half, I could have lunchtime to drive back to the school. They were really close. Then I'm just going to leave altogether. And they didn't believe me that I was going to do that. And I remember friends told me that they read my name off at first day of school, senior year, Larry, where's Larry? And they're like, he's in college. No, he's not. It was a really small school. Everybody knew each other. But parents were super happy to start it sooner than later.
My kids actually went to a high school like that. There's Kennedy High School up in Norco, and the campus is directly adjacent to the Norco Junior College.
Oh, really cool.
And so while you're there for 4 years as a high school student, you're actually able to take college classes at the junior college. Yeah. And if you apply yourself enough, which my kids did, you can graduate with your 2-year degree. So they've already got that under their belt at graduation. So now it's only 2 years to get their undergrad. The flip side, though, is a lot of time demand for the academic studies. If you wanted to be involved in sports or anything like that, you had to go back to what would be your home high school. So they really, in my opinion, kind of haven't really got it all dialed in yet. But I don't know if you could be a full-time sports athlete, maintain your high school classes, and then also maintain the junior college classes. So it might be a big pie to try to eat.
Yeah. Nowadays, though, with jiu-jitsu and swimming clubs and things that you could do just to stay in shape and compete in something, you don't necessarily have to be on a high school team. So I know with our kids, we're talking about just no more of the football and all that stuff. And I mean, unless you show some potential to be a Major League Baseball player or something, then maybe. But if you're just the good high school athlete and having fun, we'll just stick with, jujitsu, some boxing or something, and doing that. So there's no season. It's not like you got to go to practice after school. You could put for a semester or two when you're taking some hard physics classes, you could kind of put it not on hold, but just go on the weekends just to maintain for a little bit. So, putting the emphasis on that and less to sports. We don't need any more surgeries and concussions and all that. So,
or you're playing year round. Some of these kids, it's like they're never out of with travel ball and everything else. Yeah. The idea from when we grew up of just playing your local rec ball, and if you were good enough, you were going to get found by the scouts. And now it's he's got an inkling of, so let's put them with a coach and let's get now they're going to keep playing. I remember having a buddy when I first started in law enforcement talking about his kid playing winter ball. I was like, what's winter ball? You're like, they play baseball. It's like, it's become a business at such a young age.
You're right. It is a business. You pay the dues, the actual monetary dues that are owed to these clubs, and then the travel that goes with it, and the hotels and the plane tickets, and then you never have Sundays anymore. When we were kids, Sunday was off limits. You'd go throw a football around with a kid in the neighborhood, but you didn't have practice. On Sundays. Sundays was family time always. So 7 days a week and year round. And so you wonder why, in high school they're getting, Tommy John surgery.
Right. They're just burned out.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Or you got these kids that are driving 100 miles one way to play in a tournament that 3/4 of the teams they're playing against are all from where they're from anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It just.
Yep.
I'm glad I'm out of that era and just kind of letting my kids live their own lives.
Yeah, I think we're not going to jump into that and not really offer it as a choice to the kids. Yeah. So, they can have some fun in life, do all this travel. We're going to do all that. But, it's not going to be traveling to go play baseball. And no offense to anybody who's listening who, loves that. That's cool. But I'm done with spending my weekends just watching games, tournaments all weekend to watch your kid make that one diving catch or that one, hit a double and turn it into a triple. Yeah, that's it. You get a couple moments of excitement for that entire day you just wasted, And
then if you've got multiple kids, inevitably, one of them's at this field, one of them's at that field. So the mom's running that way, dad's running that way. It becomes, my opinion, it just becomes too much on the family.
Yeah.
Kids just need to be kids. Just let them go, play.
Yeah. Yeah. And I 100% agree.
When you've already mentioned the military. So when did you start thinking about the military, and did that have an impact on what you were going to study in college?
No impact on the study in college. I just, I was kind of playing around with political science but it ended up just transitioning over to criminal justice. I had more friends doing it, to be honest, and they were telling me about the classes they were taking. Some of the older guys who were in those classes. I mean, I was a 17-year-old, just making friends with all these 20, 21-year-olds that were telling me which classes to take and that sort of thing. It sounded fun, so I did criminal justice. The military side of it, though, was always wanted to at least go in the reserves, and I had an uncle who was a Marine and Vietnam era guy, did active duty for a long time, but then transferred to the reserves and I don't remember how many years he did, but 35 or so years in the reserves. A really cool guy, and we'd have a lot of cool stories from his reserve drill time. Him and his buddy. Most of it was when they weren't drilling. It was like in the evenings,
right.
Just the party and stuff. But he had some cool stories, and I met a lot of his friends at family gatherings and stuff too. They just all seemed like cool guys and camaraderie, and so I at least wanted to join, the Marine Corps Reserve, and started thinking about becoming a cop for a little bit. Started checking that around. And I kept getting the same kind of answer from me because I graduated high school early.
You were too young.
I was turning 21 with a bachelor's degree. So they all said you had to be 21, but they weren't. They didn't want a 21-year-old. Just legally, that's the legal age you could be. They wanted somebody with what they would always say worldly experience. I heard that term a number of times, calling San Jose PD, Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department, Oakland. I was calling like bigger cities because I really just wanted to get somewhere to get a lot of experience. And there's no internet to look at this. You had to I call 411. Can I have the number for San Jose Police Department? And then, yes, hello. Can you transfer in your recruiting department? And it's that kind of thing. And you could have just click, and then there's all the info you wanted. So huge phone bills back then. But I kept hearing worldly experience. Oh man, we'd love to have you. Never did drugs, athlete, all this stuff, criminal justice degree. I had a part-time job working at the juvenile hall, so I was kind of working in the criminal justice field a little bit. But anyway, all that said, they said, man, if one of them, I I think the guy was from Oakland. He said, dude, if you just went and joined the military for a little bit and came back, we would love to have you. You know, have you ever thought about that? I'm like, but yeah, I was thinking of going in the reserves after I got a job. Oh, dude, why don't you just go do that now? Because the training will take a long time and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And okay. And so there was the billboards that said 1-800-Marines on the highway. I remember on Highway 99. I remember what they looked like. There's two of them. One had a black Marine, one had a white Marine, one had a big wave, one had these lightning bolts, but they were just cool, you know, big buff guys. And so called 1-800-Marines, and was just going to enlist in the Marine Corps, in the reserves actually at first. And
so no concept of the officer program.
No, nobody in my family was an officer. I didn't think about officer. The only officer, you know, you watch the movie Patton, or, you know, you heard about McCarthy, you know, this whole thing of the captain level and the lieutenants, and, you know, they're always in movies portrayed as like the dummy, you know, and so it was like, yeah,
college boys.
I want to be the gunny, you know. And so, you know, what was that with Clint Eastwood?
Heartbreak Ridge.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to be Clint Eastwood in Heartbreak Ridge? Who wanted to be the lieutenant in Heartbreak Ridge, or the asshole major who Clint Eastwood beat up, right? So, yeah. So anyway, just called them to do that. And they said, well, do you have any college? And I said, yeah, well, we have to let you talk to somebody else. And it was the officer recruiter. And I've told the story before that, you know, it wasn't that I was trying to talk to that guy. They had a rule in place that anybody with one college credit even had to talk to the officer recruiter, because the enlisted recruiters were tricking dudes into enlisting who had law degrees and who had, you know, oh, you want to be a lawyer in the Marine Corps? Well, you had to enlist first, because they were trying to make mission.
Right.
And they were tricking, and dudes were at boot camp, and then drill instructors and all were like finding out these dudes had JDs or PhDs or master's degree, whatever it was. So they came back and slapped everybody and said, you gotta, anybody with one degree or one credit even, they took, you know, creative dance or something, they had to talk to the officer recruiter. So he said, you got a bachelor's degree? Yeah. Well, you want to, you thinking about maybe being an officer? I'm like, well, no. I mean, well, you know, it's kind of like being the captain on the football team. And I was like, played sports. And I just thought, okay, you know, that sounds kind of neat. So that's the only reason I did the officer thing, was this guy making it sound like a cool sports analogy, you know, like I was going to be Joe Montana, you know, on the team and, instead of like one of the O linemen. So, yeah, that was what did it. But then he said, you can't go in the reserves. You had to do in the Marine Corps has always been that way, that as an officer, you had to do at least 3.5 or 4 years of active duty time. And, so I was like, okay, that's cool. I'll come back and be a cop or something. But I just ended up staying in.
First step off into, so you would go to OCS, Virginia?
Yeah.
When was that?
92. Yeah. So, in the meantime, while I was waiting for that, I just in case, you know, it fell through or something, I started working on a master's in psychology, just, you know, still working kind of full time, and just, I'll just take these classes. I was almost done with the first semester of it when they said, okay, hey, it was very competitive to get in. I remember driving up to Sacramento, and I didn't realize it was kind of a tryout. They only had so many seats, and they wanted to send the best that weren't going to drop out. So they would have you run a PFT up there and hang out with you and see how cool you were, how you know, bright you were. I didn't realize I was being like auditioned, you know. I just went up there and they're like, okay, we're going to do this 3-mile run, you know, go. And we're going to pull ups, go. I wasn't really training for those, but I did well enough to where they said, hey, we got a flight for you to go to Quantico now. So, dropped out of the master's thing and just went to Quantico and grinded it out, stayed there for a long time through a lot of training and a lot of stuff on the West Coast, or on the East Coast with training. I went through the pipeline I was in used to be the closest thing to being a pilot. I mean, as far as time, it was a very time intensive. You had to go to multiple schools for it. And it was in the signals intelligence, you know, cryptology world. So they didn't really have a course for it. So you learn you had to go to communications courses, and you went to some Navy courses. You went to some Marine courses because there was no real course for it. But at the time, computers were different. So you went to a data systems course. They didn't even call it computers, right? Now it's all comms, right?
Right.
But back then it was all separate. So you had to learn about all this stuff. I went to all the courses all these MOSs, that was their MOS producing school. So I had multiple MOSs because I had to learn it all. And then went to Navy schools and learned how they do it on ships, which we don't even do, but kind of took that and then did it on land, you know, that knowledge.
Did you want to do the intelligence route, or did?
I was kind of like, we would have these mixers, on the officer side at TB, at the basic school there at Quantico. And, you know, it's a 6-month course and you're kind of learning everything, logistics, mortars. I mean, everything. It's like you're a jack of all trades. And then during that, they would have these mixers and, you know, some beer, and they would have a big sign hanging from the ceiling for each kind of MOS, you know, tankers or MPs or artillery. and there'd be a couple captains there, and they were just there to answer your questions about kind of what it was like. And, you could read about it, but just having a real person there. And I always remember the Intel sign never had anybody underneath it. And it was like, wow, they're off doing really cool stuff. And they're really, they go to scuba school, and then they're doing stuff with CIA, and then they're, so they're too busy to be here. That was like what was honestly said to us. Well, that sounds really cool, And I hear like, oh yeah, you go to Ranger school, just all this stuff with Intel. And so, being a grunt sounded fun, artillery sounded fun. There's a lot of things that sounded fun, but this Intel thing was like, man, this kind of James Bond special ops kind of thing, as the way it was relayed to us by people who had no idea. It was like a grunt officer telling us this. He had there are people that do that kind of neat stuff, but
yeah, what was the reality of it?
The reality was like totally different. So, it was a night and day, but there were still people that kind of believed that in the Marine Corps. They didn't do well in the Marine Corps though. I remember my first captain, when I was brand new second lieutenant, the company commander has me in his office. We're sitting like this, and he goes, "I'm just going to tell you something. We don't really work for the Marine Corps. We work for this agency, and you just need to always understand it." And I'm just soaking in all this bullshit, But he was serious. He kind of there were some old school guys who used to think that we kind of really work for these guys, even though we're wearing this uniform, and which isn't the case. But it was not as sexy as it was portrayed to be.
Most of that early command staff still part of the tail end of the Cold War era, we got to fight the communists.
Mm-hmm. There was that. And there was also, just coming out of Desert Storm, that happened like right before I went off to OCS. So, everybody's telling their war stories about WW SWA. I remember that. Some captain with, because before that, everybody would have like 3 ribbons. Now these guys got like 4 rows, and, they think they're like Vietnam era superstars. And so they bragging about their war experience out there in the desert. Boys, let me tell you what it's like. It
lasted for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was still Cold War-ish, and then desert stuff. So, that was you're always fighting the last war. All the training was about the desert, or a little bit of like the Fulda Gap kind of ideas what we're going to do in Europe, because the Marines still had the northern part of Europe for Norway. So we trained with Norwegians a lot, and we were up there doing some stuff in the snow. In case something ever went down in Europe, But it got cooler later on. But as a lieutenant at one of the units that do it tactically, I didn't really enjoy it that much. I was going to move on and just go into the reserves like I might plan to. But there's always that, we got this really cool offer for you. What's behind door number 2? Orders over to do this other thing that's kind of neat. And I remember the battalion commander. I love that guy. His name was Ron Makuta, and just awesome dude. There's the guys you do the right thing because you're afraid you're going to get your ass kicked. And then there's ones you do it because you want to see them get promoted. And you want to see, he was definitely one of those guys. So I remember calling me, "Oh man, you should take these orders there. I did that." And, told me how much fun it was, and okay, do it. And I did enjoy it. It was different. But then, it was just, went on, and things did start getting more fun and more cool later on.
Was there a single moment or an event that made you go, okay, I now am going to go a full career?
No. Even at the end of that second one, I had applied to the FBI, and I got hired. And I was supposed to go to the FBI Academy in January of 2002. And I resigned, and I was still on active duty waiting for the resignation, and September 11 happened. And they didn't make me stay in. I actually called the FBI first, and I said, "Hey, I really want to work with you guys, but I tell this part of the story probably too much, but at that time, the guy who was the head of the FBI, I can't remember his name, but I remember him being on the news saying, FBI used to be all over the world. I mean, they still are, but like at that time, he was saying, we're going to pull back a lot of our assets overseas and really get back to the bread and butter of FBI work. And, organized crime and counterintelligence at home. And so when we're attacked, it's like, well, the FBI is probably not the organization to be with now if I want to fight those people. So they were cool about it. They said, yeah, no problem. Just give us a call. You're hired. We just had to redo your physical and that kind of stuff. And give us a call when you come back from whatever, this fast Desert Storm operation we're going to end up doing probably. Everybody thought it was just going to be like a 6 or 9 months. So anyway, yeah, I just stayed in the Marine Corps, and then again, even at the end of that tour, it was like, okay, I'm going to give the FBI a call. But that was that point. You're like at 12 years, and it was like, yeah. And then they offered me this great job out in Hawaii and being in charge of these Marines that were all over the world, doing some really cool stuff in other countries, and that was some really fun, sexy stuff. So I stayed in for that, and then that's when I knew, okay, I'm here for at least 20 now.
So on 9/11, you were still active duty Marine Corps, but you were in the process of getting hired with the FBI.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where were you stationed at that time?
I was at Cherry Point, North Carolina, and I was working through like the Charlotte office at that point. And then when I stayed in, I said, hey, they moved. If you're going to stay in, the only orders they had was teaching up in Virginia Beach, and so I took it. I got to deploy out of the teaching job, which was cool. Very few people got a chance to do that. So I was really happy about that. But went up there and did that. And when I came back from an Iraq deployment, I called the FBI office in Norfolk. And they had my file sent up there, and I started the process there. And they were just finishing it up. And then I get offered this awesome job, and I was like, yeah, I'll just stay in. If they hadn't offered me that job, I probably would have punched out at that point, I think.
Did you finish out in Hawaii?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a small period of time, 2 years I lived in Korea. It was Hawaii to Korea and then back to Hawaii. When you get that specialty of certain countries, especially in the intel field, but even in plans and stuff, they want to hold on to you there. But I was okay being held on to there. A lot of people didn't want to be the Korea and China and Philippines guy, or I loved it for a change, doing that. So I still got to deploy from Hawaii to Afghanistan, but the rest of my life was pretty much like, I was training the Koreans on intelligence stuff, helping them build a new school for that, learning all that, the North Koreans, the Chinese, all the South China Sea stuff. That became my life at that point. So I became the, expert on that, which is scary. I wasn't really the expert, but, as far as Marines go, most of them are avoiding that area of the world. So, you get marked as the expert on the Korea issue, especially. You stay out there. Yeah.
So then from the flip side of that, was there anything that would have kept you in to go 30?
Nah. I was just ready to get back here to California. My family was all out here. I was going to be out there, just be alone in Hawaii, and I loved it out there. But there's no, I was going to be flying back all the time, and the tickets were just getting really expensive for a little while too. So they had offered to let me stay in Hawaii another 3-year tour, because people like our age, when your kids are that age, they don't want to move to Hawaii. They always hear that the schools are bad. They always hear that the locals aren't going to like it, which is not true. There's some good schools there, and if you just embrace the local community there, they dig you. So I was coaching t-ball and doing all that stuff, so I was part of the community. But I could have stayed 3 more years, but tickets went from like $200 to $400 to like $2,000, and coming back here every month was kind of not really financially something I could do and I kept thinking they were going to go higher and higher. So like, yeah, I'm just going to quit now. I'm going to make enough in retirement. I can just go do something I want to do.
I was just thinking, from the outsider looking in, it sounds like you really kind of positioned yourself to be very valuable to the Marine Corps. And I would imagine they would have been very strong in pushing to keep you in and doing everything they could to try to like, hey, what can we do to lure you to stay?
Yeah. Yeah. There was nothing really I wanted to do other than stay in Hawaii. That would have been the only other thing, but it was really, I was being offered to stay where I loved, San Diego's home, but being able to stay there, I really enjoyed it. Just surfing all the time. The water's always warm. My job was a good job. I had a really good position. I was at what they used to call it the JIOC. It was a Joint Intelligence Operations Center for the Pacific. Now it's Indo-Pac. And really cool mission there, doing some neat stuff, and loved it. Worked with great people, a lot of civilians, DIA, all the other 3-letter agencies there, foreigners that worked with us, Aussies and stuff, and just really good group of people. I enjoyed the work I was doing. So I would have been fine staying there. Matter of fact, those guys were trying to get me to stay on in a civilian position there too. They wanted me to take this civilian deputy commander position. They were just starting up. And I was really strongly thinking of considering it. I would have been stuck there forever though at that point, but
not a bad place to be stuck.
No. And it was a great job. And they just wanted some continuity to just stay there. So I was strongly considering that. And then just something happened with DIA. It would have been a DIA employee position. Their HR people, they kind of ebb and flow with like different policies.
Right.
They came up with this policy where they were not going to hire any more senior officers to senior civilian positions because it was hurting the youngsters that were working their way up through DIA. And all of a sudden there's that job as the director of this, South Asia department. And, this retired colonel takes it, or this retired admiral gets it, so to, fix morale issues and all that, they said, you got to come in at a GS-12 position. So the only thing I could have come in at is this analyst. I had like 1,000 of them working for me, and then I was just going to be one. And it's not that I didn't mind, but I didn't want to be stuck in a skiff, just, analyzing, Cambodian, merchant vessels and,
turning paler by the day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Coming in at dark and leaving at dark. And no fresh air. Yeah. That's an awful life those guys do. I mean, they're really helping our country. I mean, the stuff they do is amazing. And most people wouldn't imagine, what they're up to, but yeah, there's no fresh air. It's like being in a submarine all day. Yeah.
Did you plan for your transition out? Did you have anything set up for you when you were going to get out?
Yeah, I did. Nothing I had thought of for a long time, but I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to go ahead and punch out in, 6 months or 8 months, whatever it was. And I just started looking at things I wanted to do. I wanted to help in the homeless side of the, nonprofit stuff, especially homeless vets. And so that was a big thing with me. And I knew it was a big problem in San Diego. Yeah, I had no idea how big a problem it was, but it was pretty huge and wanted to help in that regard. But I knew enough to know that, I didn't know everything about San Diego because I'd been kind of away for a long time and just traveled back on vacation. So I wasn't so arrogant that I thought, well, I'm going to have this perfect nonprofit that's going to fix everything. I knew there's probably some people out there doing some decent work and maybe I go work for them. Or there's a little piece of a mission that we do need to have a nonprofit that kind of takes care of this subgroup of vets. So I just wanted to get on the ground for a while and see, where I needed to be. And I had people recommend to me 2 jobs to get reacquainted with San Diego. And one was driving for Uber and one was being a cop. And I always had that, from back when I was young, like, oh, it'd be cool to be a cop, I guess, for a little while. And so I thought I'd do the cop thing. And that's where I went. So they had me go to the academy while I was on terminal leave. I went on terminal leave and like the next week I was in San Diego starting my training and I was excited about it. I did not at all. I was very different from almost every retiring officer I ever knew in that, they wanted their huge, Battleship Missouri,
plaques and memorials and
the band playing and I was like, no, nobody wants to be at those. They're being told to be there. It's just, I was like, hey, look, anybody wants to, there was a bar on Pearl Harbor that we used to go to. We had decent pizza and some good beer on tap. I said, oh, come on over here if you want to. And sure enough, it's just like a good solid, like 30 or so people who, and it was after work. So it wasn't like you were going to get to go there instead of work. It was like, you really wanted to go there if you went there. So yeah, it was just good people who really wanted to and wanted to be there. And we just hung out and I was more than happy to just take the uniform off. It's not that I hated it or, I loved it, but I was just ready for that transition and I couldn't wait. And I just wanted to move on. So it started the police academy right away. I was still double dipping for a little bit.
Was it hard for you to, I'll use the term, become the new guy again?
No, I embraced it. I think I'm a little weird in that regard because the police department that I finally ended up working for, San Diego PD, the head of the recruiting department, the lieutenant there, a really good guy. He's still in as a captain, but he took me aside one time. He said, "Hey man, you understand you're going to be the low guy. You're the FNG. It's like we've had some problems with." And it was always Navy captains or commanders that did the academy. And then he told me they quit after having these young guys telling them what to do or training them. And they just couldn't take that. They like being the boss. I said, you have no idea, bro. I was like, I am totally going to embrace being responsible for just me for a little while. No phone calls at 3 a.m. about, Corporal so-and-so did something or this event happened in the South China Sea and I got to come in on Sunday night to, get all spun up on it, see what we're going to do. All I got to do is drive a patrol car with the windows down and listening to some Led Zeppelin. Oh yeah, fuck yeah! I can't wait. And yeah, I had the training officers. Yeah, they were all younger than me. Of course, I was the oldest guy. I was the oldest guy in the academy. But I loved it. I embraced it. It was fun. And then also it was cool being like in better shape than almost all of the people at the academy who were in their 20s. Is just I only had like a couple of people that would beat me on the runs and the pull-ups and all that. But I was more breakable than them. Because one time I was kind of showing off a little bit and threw my back out, and then, oh man. So from that point on, I was almost done with the academy. I was just like, okay, dude, just coming in the middle of the pack, quit trying to,
you got
beat
nothing to prove.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you find it? And this is very rhetorical, but I'm going to ask anyway. How'd you find going from being in the Marine Corps to now police, law enforcement academy? Mm-hmm. Was it easy for you to kind of slide right into it? Any issues with it?
Yeah, I did slide right into it, and I think I had no issues, but it's not because they were really similar. Uniform and guns and boots, but like very different. And, I could talk about that for hours on the differences there, because me and some of the other vets that are cops, we'll talk about it sometimes. Some things that people who were not military and just grew up in a police department, they think very differently than the veterans sometimes. The longer you stayed in, the more senior you were on the enlisted or the officer side, doesn't matter. But, you look at things in the police department different. You don't really notice that. You would see a bunch of cops, you won't even notice it. But in certain issues, you'll see like a little bit of a divide on some stuff. But nothing that really causes us to argue or anything. We just have different views on some things. But, I slipped right in, but it was just mostly because of being an older guy, knowing how to talk to people, being respectful, knowing how to start conversations. The younger people don't. Oftentimes they forget, or they never knew how to do that. So yeah, when I'm out there and I'm just talking to a bad guy, and I know we're going to arrest him, but I know he's got a weapon. He's sitting on a knife or something. I just sit there and we'll talk about the Padres. We're talking about the weather, because I'm in my ear. I'm hearing, yeah, we'll be there in just a minute. Because I know there's a big fight about to kick off here. As soon as we're telling him, hey, you're under arrest for this felony warrant or whatever. So I'm just playing it cool, and the guy's smiling and not telling him a joke, so I could do that as a brand new cop even. And guys, they're younger, it's maybe 5 years, or they never get it, but just that ability to talk to people, talk them into handcuffs. I'm really always been really good at that. Like, come on, bro, we're going to fight. I'm going to kick your ass, but I'm old. I'm going to rip my pants. You're going to make me buy these uniforms are expensive, and just, and then you're going to have to tell everybody this. I always lie about my age. I said I was older than I was. So even though I was 48, I was like, man, I'm in my 50s. You're going to tell everybody this 50-year-old kicked your ass. Come on, man, let's get out of here. I'll get you some water. I'll make sure the cuffs are loose, just that kind of stuff. And, they just turn around and put their hands behind their back. It's not always that easy, but I was just able to talk people into it. And it's just from being an older guy.
You said something, though, that's funny that made me think back when I was early on in my career, starting to wear an earpiece.
Yeah.
So obviously they can't hear the radio.
Yeah.
But at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, when it's relatively quiet,
yeah,
you can hear your backups coming from about a mile away, because they're on it at every light.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes they would look up at you and go, are they coming for us?
Yeah, really? I never had anybody catch on to that, because most of the time where I was downtown, the highways are right there too.
So okay.
But yeah, no, I know what you're talking about, because other parts of town, yeah, you'd hear that. Yeah, even tires squealing like they're fishtailing around a corner to come get you, but they can't have their lights and siren.
You're like, oh, okay, I know what's going on here now.
Right.
Where I was going with the academy, because I remember back when I went into the academy, we had a major who was in the exact same situation like you were. He was finishing out his time in the Marine Corps, still actually active duty, so probably on terminal leave when he started the academy. And I remember, they make the early class, you don't want to be the early class sergeant, because it's either one or two things. One, you're either really squared away and they know that you can at least set the tone for everybody, which is eventually what we learned they were doing with him. They made him the class sergeant, had no issue, got us from A to B, marched to, but I remember him just, there's nothing. Not that he had an arrogant attitude, but it's like, there's nothing you can do that you're going to fuck with me. And at the same token, they didn't go out of their way to really try to push him. Whereas some of the younger guys, 22, 23, like myself, man, they would just lay into you.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the same thing. I did have this one female who was, in charge of our section at the academy. And, she'd always be trying to find something to, they would give you A9s to write is like a punishment. Like, go write that I will not, put attack on teacher's chair, 100 times. It'd be like whatever you messed up on. You might have forgotten what 459 was or something. So you had to go write it like 100 times. That was your saying so many Hail Marys at the end of the day, and which sucked because you didn't have a whole lot of free time at night. So now, God damn it, they gave me this I gotta write, and your writer's cramp because nobody writes anymore, and you're with your pencil, and then they're gonna ding you for your penmanship on it too. It's just stupid punishment, hazing kind of thing. But she always tried to get me on my boots. Your boots aren't shiny enough. I was like, what are you talking about? And she I remember getting in trouble for my boots not being shiny. And they were always shiny. I think she was just looking for something to, because I think there was a feel amongst some of the people there that I'm going to be arrogant. I wasn't at all. I mean, I was totally happy to be, just a police officer, PO1, right, on probation. People would ask, hey, I heard you were something really senior in the Marine Corps. No, dude, I'm a PO1. I just left it at that. This is my new life. I loved it. But one time I did get called over. I'm remembering this now. This one guy who was from the other academy, right? 2 academies were going on at the same time. They said, yes, officer, this guy, I won't say his name, but he wants to talk to you after we break for formation to go to lunch. Oh, okay, well, who's he? Well, he's standing over there, and I just see this guy looking at me really pissed. I'm like, I didn't even seen this guy before. Like, what's going on? So as soon as they fall out, right, and I go run over here. Hey, Turner reporting his order. Standing at 10. Yeah, I understand that you used to be something, but you're not anymore, and you need to get like. Yes, sir. I like, where did this come from? I think guys who I found out, he was like in the reserves, he was a corporal or something. I just, maybe he'd had a bad run in with someone who had been senior and wanted to make sure I was never that guy, but I've never been that guy. I've been so humble and chill, and people are always surprised to hear, what I did in the Marine Corps and all that. And it's just, I embrace my new life 100%. Yeah.
I remember being in the academy, and we probably had total 7 or 8 guys who had been in different branches. And I would say that all of them, you rarely knew they had been in the military, except when we were marching,
Mm-hmm. There you go. And they showed up with a good haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
But I found that a lot of them were just that's what I used to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm here with you right now, and we're both scraping the bottom of the barrel. Yeah, we're all suffering together. But, the younger people would look up to you. I would forget how old I was sometimes. Like I was talking about in the PT side of it, but also just, I'm friends with these people who are 25, 28, 30, and I was 48 or 46 at the time, I think. So those are my peers now. And unless you walk by a mirror or some very reflective glass, you're like, oh, damn, I'm the old guy, So, but yeah, we'd go out for, study, go out for beers, work out on the weekends together and stuff. But yeah, it was really interesting being around all those young people for so long. But, once we all made it out of the academy and went out and patrol and stuff, then it changed. You were, I found that the older people, the senior people in the command, the captains and lieutenants and some of the older sergeants would, there was no like fraternization kind of an issue anymore, like it was in the military. So, they were people my age were the ones running the whole shop, So, they would talk to me a lot and take my ideas on how to change some things, especially when it came to like intelligence stuff. We have like a joint task force that does that kind of work. They asked me to do that. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm happy just being out here. So, it was cool once I got out there and started patrolling, especially being alone on the car. I had partners, but I kind of dug, just being out there and running from call to call by myself to go cover people on keeping myself free as much as I could to go get those really good calls that would come out. In your time in the Marine Corps, how much time were you at Pendleton?
Never stationed there. Yeah. No, the whole, I tried early on, but yeah, East Coast, between Lejeune, Cherry Point, Virginia Beach, a lot of time up around Quantico and up at like Fort Meade, Maryland, where NSA is. I was always kind of at NSA, and and then Hawaii and Korea. Those were like my permanent stations, besides deploying. Yeah.
So what year did you come on with the police department?
That was 95, end of 95. I started and then graduated the academy in February 96, and then did 6 months of phase training. So, so I actually got a badge in like February of 96. I'm sorry. Why am I saying 96? 16. Man, sorry. The decades just they're so confusing. So yeah,
you still only look 25, so you're good
until I walk by the mirror. But yeah, 15. I'm sorry, 15 is when I came in, and then graduated in 16. So had no intention of staying in this long. I've done it 9 years now. So was just gonna do it for a little while and then go do the nonprofit side of the world with homelessness. But I actually interact with homeless a lot in my job. And I find that I had so much more ability to help them and change their lives as a cop. I know that sounds funny because I'm arresting them a lot of times too. But even when I would arrest them, I was always just super respectful and friendly and trying to help them out and giving them my number. Like, hey, call me when you get out. I know this one program. I can get you locked on for that, because, we would have hours together at multiple times. And even when I hadn't arrested them, I'd meet them out in the encampments and talk to them. So I knew the ones that were trying and had a good spirit amongst them. I mean, the things we were getting arrested for was just like not showing up on some drug possession course. They had a rinky-dink warrant or something. So, yeah, they weren't like the bad guys. They weren't the dealers or attempted murder or anything like that.
Spirit of the law, letter of the law.
Yeah, right. So I was just trying to help those guys as much as I could. And I felt like I was able to connect a lot of those folks with the service providers that were the good service providers.
With your time in the Marine Corps and promoting being just the natural progression of your career, was promoting an aspect that you wanted to aim for on your law enforcement side?
No, never. Yeah, I was done. I was like, this is my career. I'm done with it. There was a time 2 years ago, it was before I started doing this current endeavor. I had another Marine. She's awesome. She's a captain now in the police department, but she should be a chief someday. Brilliant. Was a Marine. I think she was a staff sergeant. Didn't retire, but Berkeley grad, brilliant woman, funny, really talented, like one of the best cops in the department. And I was working for her. And she said, man, Larry, you got to be a sergeant, man. You're so, your leadership, be able to train, have your own squad and really, fine tune these young men and women into better cops. And just kind of talked me into it. So I did tests for that and I passed. And then my wife and I, it was around the time I was thinking about doing this other thing I'm doing now. And I thought, well, man, if I do that, it's going to be so much harder to do it as a sergeant because the current job I had a very flexible schedule. I have a boss, but I make my own schedule. It's pretty easy to move it around if I had an extracurricular activity at work, So we talked about it. I remember I had the interview on a Monday and over the weekend, just kind of thinking about it, praying about it and all that. And we just, early in the morning when I knew that they'd answer the phone, I told them, hey, I'm not coming in for the interview. So that was the closest I came, was doing that. But I really was never going to go past 10 years. And so I'm coming up, I'll just have like a year left right now.
Yeah. Cause I was imagining once you get through training and you're on your own and they can actually see, like you're talking about their previous experience. A lot of times guys would get in there who had been ranking members on the military side, all of a sudden go, I can't deal with this. But once they see that you're there and you're solid, I would imagine you're getting not picked on, but like, hey, you've got a lot of leadership experience. You could bring that and just kind of little birdie in your ear, I would imagine is a regular thing. Yeah,
totally. I'd have the lieutenants and captains who knew me, man, you can go as far as you want in this department. You can, and that they were never military people first. They had always, and I respect that. I was really nice to them to say, but I already had my career. I would honestly, I called it as a joke a lot of times, my hobby job. It was a job. I mean, I did way more than 40 hours a week. I would stay for overtime all the time and I really enjoyed the work. But I didn't have to do the job. I was financially fine with retirement and all. And, so it wasn't a necessary thing to go to work every day. I just really enjoyed it, but I could also quit at any time too. I didn't, or they fire me if I didn't agree to do something I thought was unethical. I was happy to just go, okay, here's the badge, bye. So there was a lot of freedom in that and just enjoying that you don't have to go to work. So you have more fun when you just don't have that brick in your backpack, that you don't have to be there. If you don't want it, you could quit any day. You're not like trying to put kids through college or anything like that. Yeah. So it was cool that they offered those kinds of advice to, hey, you should do this and this and this. And the only thing frustrating was sometimes seeing the young cops that were brand new, they joined when they were 22. this is their career, right? So they're trying to hit all those wickets and get promoted as fast as they can. And I'm going to be a lieutenant by 10 years. And I'm going to do that. And I would just tell them, I'm friends with some of these guys, and they're all sergeants now, putting in for lieutenant. And it's like, they're so young, and it's like, guys, stop and just enjoy the job for a little while. You don't gotta pick up the next rank as fast as possible. But we're so short on officers. They're telling people, hey, when you got 4 years at this rank, you can put it for the next one. Yeah, but guys, and they're going to be a chief, maybe as a late 30s, and then what? I mean, you got another 20 years to be at that executive level. It ain't that fun. I try to tell them, like in the Marine Corps, once you get out of captain, there was a couple cool things I was doing as a major on my own, like out there all by myself doing some cool stuff. But after that, you just facilitate other people doing cool stuff, and you live vicariously through them, and send them off on some cool training or trips to Africa or something like that. Same thing in the police department. Every one of those chiefs would tell you, man, I wish I was back on patrol again. So I try to tell them that as a guy who was in the Marine Corps, but they don't listen. They just hurry up. I got to get promoted faster than all the other guys in my class. I got to be the first one from my academy, to be chief. All right, guy.
It's definitely a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I promoted and started the promotional process later in my career. So I spent the last 8 years promoting up, and never had really been interested in it prior to that until that one time I was tapping like, hey, you need to test for supervisor, which is our sergeant level. And then at that point in my career, because I had done enough, I was really able to see, okay, there's some serious benefit to promoting and taking care of your people, getting them what they need. On the flip side, though, if you're just racing to the rank because you want to get to the rank, that's the wrong way to do it.
Right.
Do everything you can. And if it falls, falls in your lap. If it happens when it happens, you'll get there. But that is a big thing. You have to, in your mind, know the higher up you go, you're further in the rear with the gear, and you're spending more desk time than street time.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't get that, though. They got to see it. And then it's too late to go back, right? You're already on that side of the fence, man. I mean, nobody's taken, a voluntary demotion to go back to something cool. But yeah, I tell them all the time too, the whole up or out in the Marine Corps or in the military in general, right? You got to get promoted or you're moving on, right? Enjoy the fact that we don't have that. Yeah. Stay a PO2, and just be out on patrol, enjoying that for a while, or even be a detective and do that for 10 years if you want. And so there's some guys who do that. We have that PO3 rank that's just like that super smart, been doing it for a couple decades, patrol officer. So there's a little more respect and a little more pay with a different kind of a rank on their sleeve. Or sergeant, they're just, old sergeant's been a sergeant for a long time, mentoring so many young officers and making such a big difference on the department with that one-on-one mentoring is, it's priceless. So I dig those guys, but the young guys they won't listen to you on that. It's just about getting some shiny stuff on their collar as fast as they can,
That is one of the things in having the opportunity to interview guests. You're a unique situation where you can evaluate both sides of it. One thing that I do love about the first responder side of the house, there isn't that pressure to promote. If you enjoy where you're at, you could stay there for your career unless your agency has some sort of mandatory rotation. The idea of having to promote, no. And if you make to one rank, there's no pressure that anybody coming behind you can't jump ahead of you. Hey, go on, make lieutenant, make captain. The one thing, though, that I wish the first responder community would do is force us to do like they do in the military. Reevaluate your life every 4 to 6 years. Is this what you want to keep doing?
Yeah.
Is there a motivation to go to the next one? Whereas most first responders, you sign on the dotted line day one. Hey, we'll see you in 20. We'll see you in 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's the only way you're going to reevaluate your life, and if this is really what you want to do, is doing it on your own. Yeah,
I totally agree with you, man. I've thought about that and had these conversations with people in the police department too, because you'll see somebody getting a cush job and they're going to stay there forever now, and you'll already start seeing they got to buy new clothes because they don't fit anymore. It's just a very easy job. And to a lot of people, it's sad to see that, but there are plenty that do that. They'll just go into this particular detective job, or even they're still in patrol, but they go to a division that's very slow. There's Very little happens in that part of town, and they're fine with that. So, would I be in favor of some kind of rotation? Yeah. I mean, it's even for their own health. I know people have different issues. Well, I got to be stationed up in this part of the city because my kids' daycare, whatever it is. I mean, I understand we all have other things in life, but just to be a more proficient officer, it's almost as if when you're in one part of town versus the other, it's like a totally different city. And so this is like a small town cop going to two or three calls a day. These guys are running from 30 calls a day, and there's still 60 calls holding, and they probably had to pull their gun 2 or 3 times that day, drive code 3 times that day, 5 or 6 cover nows, a couple footies, all day long, drugs, guns, knives, and these guys are going to like a false alarm at a warehouse and then a traffic collision and call it a day. So they're getting paid the same. And, I mean, it's in the military. Yeah, those guys would rotate. This guy that's out at 29 Palms is now going to go to, a Victor unit and start deploying. And that guy gets a break and goes to a Barstow or something like that, where they can just kind of have a 9 to 5 for a few years and get his family back in order.
And there is no one blanket answer for it. I get it. There are, and we've all worked with them. You've had 10 years now, 20 years in the Marine Corps. There are people who get into a spot because they want to hide in that spot. Yeah. There are some people like, hey, this would be a good spot for me to learn a little bit more because my next step, I'll be able to incorporate what I'm going to learn here. And they're going to make the most of that quiet assignment until they can get back, not necessarily to the 100-mile-an-hour assignment, but maybe they're trying to broaden themselves so that when they do get to the top, they understand all aspects of it.
Oh, you're right on. The guy who's the chief now at San Diego PD, really good dude. And he and I had talked a lot about his career. We kind of knew he was going to become an assistant chief at that time. He was still a captain. And now he's the chief. And he did that with his career. He's like, I haven't been in the department for, super long time, 9 years. So I don't know all these guys for the last 30 years that we're doing it. But according to him and others, very few people, the way to make chief was, you're on SWAT. You do like some homicide detective stuff, and you do gangs and all these the sexy jobs, and then you work your way up. He kind of saw it from a business perspective, and his education was different. He didn't. It's not that he couldn't have done those things; he could have, but he tried to do that breadth of experiences because he, as a young guy, wanted to be the chief, and knew he needed to have a little bit of everything. So he kind of created his own pathway to get there, and really it worked well. And everyone in the department loves the guy. He's got such great respect from everybody and knowledge, and the changes he's already started like on day one have been really a breath of fresh air. But he, I remember talking to me about that and just his forward thinking ideas of like, we need to bring in like some Harvard MBAs to, look at this strategically where this organization goes. He's like Fortune 500 companies that are this size, have several, Ivy League MBAs working for them, looking at, we never done anything. I don't think hardly any departments do that, right? You're just a really good dude or gal, cop, SWAT, detective, and you're chief someday. How did that give you any managerial skills of running a large, 2,000 person, 3,000 person organization? Just because you tested well and interviewed well and people liked you because, you were in that critical incident and you saved that life and you pulled that person off the bridge and all these things that you got pressed for. And now you are the person in charge of this whole department in the city. It's not necessarily the best growing, of making a great leader of a large organization. You might be a really great cop, but I like the way he did that. He's hopefully the younger cops will kind of see that as that role model to emulate. That don't just hurry up and get promoted. Make sure you do as much as you can at every rank, and then move on up. Even something you think you're not going to like, just go do it for a little while and then transfer again.
It's a weird dichotomy because if you set your goal, as you mentioned, he knew he wanted to be a chief in his career. More power to him. Good on you for having that forethought, that vision. I'm going to get there. It's that balancing act, though, because there are a lot of people who are going to immediately look at you negatively, like, oh, you just want to get the rank for the rank. Mm-hmm. And so to work his way all the way up and maintain those relationships, I give him a lot of respect for that, because I think in a lot of organizations, there are a lot of people who will say, I want to be chief, but not because I want to make the organization better. Yeah. I want the rank on my collar.
Yeah, no, and that's what makes him so different is it's always been about making the organization better. He grew up in San Diego. It's so funny because even now he's kind of famous because he's the chief, but even when he was just the lieutenant and the captain, and I knew him wherever I'd go. Somebody in San Diego knew him. I went to high school with him. My sister dated him. Whatever. It was like everybody knows the guy all over, and it's a big city. I mean, it's the 8th largest city in the country, but everybody knew this guy. And but his goal was, and everybody thinks highly of him. I don't remember anybody that didn't like him, but he, is always, I want to make this city better. I want to make this department better. He's gone off to all those FBI courses and done all these things, and he visited other departments across the country, took a little lesson here, a little lesson there, and knows how to make our police department, the best in the nation. And that's really his goal. So he just had to be chief to make that happen. I think if he was given the opportunity, you'll be a captain, but you'll have all the power to do all this. He would have rather been that guy, but he just wanted the power to be able to really bring it up to be the best department in the country.
And then the only other thing you hope is that somebody good like that doesn't make chief so young that, like you mentioned, well, now what am I going to do for the next 20 years? Yeah. Am I going to get recruited to another agency? And now am I going to start jumping to make those organizations better? But what am I leaving behind? That is a huge balancing act. Because I go back to when I first started in law enforcement, and my buddies who worked at LAPD who were hired by or worked under Daryl Gates as chief, and they respected and revered him. Yeah. But it was because he understood where he came from, but he also wasn't just, and I don't mean this in a negative way, it wasn't just a stepping stone. It's like, I'm the chief of LAPD and this is my house, my family. And he took care of his people that way. That's the hard thing to do especially if you make chief at a young age, because you're going to be going through regimes, as we're going to get into, and can you keep that career going to where you're liked now by the people who could say tomorrow, we don't want you as chief today or tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right. I haven't seen a lot of getting rid of chiefs shorter than like 4 years or whatever. There's been definitely some disagreements between chiefs and mayors, I think. So, he's kind of fortunate because, the guy who's going to probably be the new one and the guy who's there now both like him. So, he's kind of got some job security for a little while. But he is still young kids to where I wonder what he's going to do after, because it is going to end. And, you could chase the money in some town up in Sacramento wants to pay a ton of money to come up there. But I think he'd want to go on and do something else, like, at the Attorney General's office or something at Post or whatever it is. We're even going back to DC and advocating for some criminal law. And you have a lot of experience, so they're all going to listen to you. A lot of respect from the elected officials. It would be back there. I don't know what you'd do after that. Never a career path I looked at doing. So I don't know what they all can go do other than playing golf after they're done.
Have you guys been able to stem your exodus and kind of keeping people, or are you still losing bodies in droves?
Yeah. Not as bad as when we were getting told you're going to get fired if you didn't get the shot. That was really bad, but it's slowed down. But we're still, the people that are anticipated already in the drop or, anticipating retire, we're not even coming close to staying at the current number. So, but
I think that's more of law enforcement across the board. There's just not a lot of people coming in the door.
No, but there's things we could do better in San Diego. The high cost of living there is a big part of it too. I mean, the morale is really bad with this mayor. Even after the state, county, and everybody else dropped the mandate for the shot, he kept it. I mean, it was some kind of, vindictive kind of thing. Who are these guys to disobey me? You must inject yourself. I am the mayor. And that pissed off a lot of people. Even like with me, people would say to me, who weren't in the military, well, you had to get a bunch of shots when you were in the Marine Corps, right? Yeah, but that's coming from the president, the Secretary of Defense, not some dude who was a city council member from, downtown, and now he's the mayor, and he's. And
I didn't know 50 of the shots they were even giving me.
But now you're older, there's no way a mayor is making me take something. I mean, even if it's something I wanted, it was a vitamin B shot. I'm like, no, you can't make me do that. I'll go do it on my own probably, but it's just the whole idea of trying to make you do it. That turned a lot of people off, and anybody that was thinking of coming here, they probably call their friends in the department, and their friends say, don't come here until there's a new leadership in the city. But we lost a lot of people, a lot of good people. And even still, this young guy, just played some college football, and he joined SDPD like 3 years ago, and we worked together, and our lockers are right by each other in the locker room there, and he just took off to a nearby city, and it was completely because of the civilian leadership in the city. He said, after changes, I might come back, but he was just more than happy to go to a place where, and the nearby city has a very good mayor, and the chief and that mayor, everybody in that town loves them. There's all the police love them all. So, and he knew people over there, so moved on over there. So I think, once we can change some things, and it'll make a lot of the cops want to stay, or even we can poach some from other cities. Everything like, these are easy fixes that nobody does, but working with nearby developers, a lot of them would want to have more first responders living in these new developments. I've talked to one of them. He plans on setting aside, a certain percentage of these new construction to sell it like at cost to a cop in there. They want to have cops in the neighborhood. They want more cops in San Diego. So, he's willing to do that just as a proud San Diegan, former Vietnam era fighter pilot guy, friend of mine, and another guy with a lending company. There's this federal program that nobody really gets into, but we got into it together, looked into it, and cops qualify for 0 down mortgages, like a VA loan kind of thing. And lenders don't really explain that to cops. So in San Diego, if you're just going to save up for your your down payment, just a lot of years
to save for a while.
Yeah, you need like a few $100,000. So to have nothing down, they can make the payment. They make plenty good money. So there's things like that. It's not necessarily you got to give them a huge pay raise. Everybody wants to work for San Diego. So even if we're a little bit less than the nearby cities, they're still going to want to be there. But that other stuff, that's why so many of my friends live up here, around you, because you can get a nicer, bigger house, and then they end up getting poached by Riverside County Sheriff's Department. One of my old partners lives over here, and he's at Menifee PD. He's a sergeant there now. And it was just because the drive sounded okay.
Until you start doing it.
Well, then when the kids have T-ball and recitals and all that, that hour and a half drive is like, these guys are going to pay me the same to drive 10 minutes. Yeah, I'll stay up here.
The one thing you definitely have going for you, though, and you mentioned this, is that San Diego's you said the 9th biggest city? 8th. But it doesn't feel like a big city. Yeah. I mean, maybe when you're in downtown.
Right.
But for the most part, I mean, San Diego is great.
Yeah.
And it is a very pro law enforcement city.
Yeah.
So coming to work there would definitely be a draw. It's just sad to hear how many you were losing for a while. So I'm glad you guys have kind of been able to stem that a little bit.
Yeah, it's still losing, but not at the speed we were. It's like the tourniquet isn't quite tight enough yet, but it's we're still leaking a little bit. But it's I'm hoping we can just some easy things we can change. The skills bridge. Mm-hmm. We don't do that. I don't know why we don't do that. It's such an easy thing to sign up for that. And when I've gone, I used to volunteer all the time. Anytime there was something at the Marine base to do recruiting, I'll go. They always want an extra person, especially somebody who was a Marine. And I'll go and I'll just tell these young Marines about how cool it is and fun the job is. And, you guys skill bridge though? No, we're not. Oh, well, LAPD and all these others are. So thanks anyway. And it's just such a simple thing to sign up for. I mean, we're just shooting ourselves in the foot so much where it would still be tough, but it would be easier if we, just did some simple things like that.
Well, that's a completely different can of worms of, I wish the first responder community did something like that for the men and women as they're approaching their transition. Yeah. Because granted, you can do a 20-year career in the military and still come out and be very young. But you could even do a 30-year career in law enforcement, first responder. It'd still be young enough to go on to do another career. And there's nothing that, unless you're taking efforts on your own to kind of think about and prepare what you're going to do. We don't have anything like TAPS, Skill Bridge, anything like that.
You're right. Yeah, right on. That's a really good point. And I hadn't thought about that with something we should be doing. That something maybe Walls, the current chief is thinking about that. That'd be a great thing I'd bring up with him sometime, because most of these men and women, when I see them retire from the police department, my experience, I was never going to retire from this job. So I didn't really think about after, I was just going to be retired, not like another career after this. Maybe assistant or a volunteer, what do you call it? A substitute teacher at my kid's school or something. But that's really great. The guys and gals I know who have retired, they've all just retired. They went out and bought that spread in Colorado, or I mean, I'm just thinking of a bunch of them, or one's flying back and forth to Boston, visiting his family, friends there, and then coming back here to hang out and surf. Very few of them went on to another career, except for the very senior people. They took a job as a chief in another city that's paying a whole bunch of money, but there's not a whole lot of money for a sergeant or a PO3, so those guys just, and their pensions were such that they didn't have to work. And I think for a lot of people in that generation that like our age or a little older, the whole dream was to not work, get a big fat pension like that they have. We don't anymore, still a good one, but we don't have enough to necessarily live off of, like theirs is. So those guys, they're living their whatever their dream was. But man, if we're living longer, and I understand law enforcement have a lower life expectancy when they get out because of the stress and the heart disease and all that. But just humans in general and Americans with modern, medical technology and science, if we're going to be living longer, I mean, the whole idea of just fishing and doing crossword puzzles for 50 years would really drive me nuts. You got to go do something else, even if it's in the volunteerism,
I would imagine even if the people say, I'm going to travel when I retire. If you could truly travel all the time, even that's going to get old. Yeah. It's got to get old living out of a suitcase.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I remember not that long ago hearing about some older people who they would jump from cruise ship to cruise ship. That was their life. Like they had no apartment. They just lived out of their couple suitcases and they found that cheaper than paying rent because you could get these cruise ship tickets. So you had all your food, all your entertainment, your room, a maid service, all that, and they would just pack up every 7 or 12 days when the cruise ship and they'd hang out in that city in a hotel for a day or two till the next one, jump on another boat and do it again. That would just drive me nuts though.
I don't know if I could do it. I mean, I don't want to be stuck on a boat all the time, but there's also the high end luxury cruise ships where you actually purchase a condo on the ship. Wow. And then it has a set route that it goes throughout the year. So you can get off and go, okay, I know that in 3 weeks it's going to be, port here and I'll just meet it there. But that's, I don't know if I'd want that lifestyle.
That's so high end. I never heard about it.
It might be fun to try for a little while. I don't think I'd want to do it long term.
Yeah.
So we've gone all the way around it and you've alluded to it. What makes you want to run for mayor? Where does the idea of politics and crossing over, wanting to help, but now let me go and put my hat in the ring for elected official?
Yeah, I never wanted to do it. And I don't know how many voters are listening to this, but I'll say it to the ones listening to this will understand probably because I'm more worried about like the younger generation not understanding it when I say it. I don't even want this job. I really don't. Even as we were driving up here today talking about, man, I just wish somebody else had stepped up to do it. This is nothing I ever wanted to do, and I don't want to do it. It's really sad right now in San Diego. The humans dying on the sidewalks, and it's doubled under this guy. I mean, the old mayor before him, whether you liked him or not, we had double digit. We were like 11, 12% decrease every year while he was mayor in homelessness. New guy comes in. I know the old mayor too. And he said, hey, whatever you do, I know you don't, we're different parties. Please, we got this great system working on what we're doing with homeless. Just keep that going. That's the best advice I could give, even though you don't like me. We've never really gotten along. If you just do that, that's going to really help the city. And he had a great system in place and the dude just changed it all. No, my plan's going to work, and it's doubled. And it's insane. The number of deaths on the sidewalks, giving Narcan to so many people, it's turned into stabbings and rapes all over the street. And, it's like a Escape from New York kind of scenario in some of the neighborhoods, and it's horrible. And I just can't see that and not do something about it. So there's a person who ran last time, and she got brilliant lady. By the way, I'm an independent. I've always been an independent from early on when the Vietnam era colonels were telling us second lieutenants, hey, you should probably stay, out of politics and just stay an independent. Don't register Republican or Democrat. And okay, yes, sir. That sounds smart to me as a 22-year-old, that sounded like good advice. And so I always done it. So, but she was a Democrat and a very progressive Democrat that she would be proud to be called that. Ivy League graduate, started up like over 100 companies, very wealthy, very successful businesswoman, super nice, just everybody, amazing leader. And, he tried to blackball list her as a Trump supporter. It was like she's furthest thing from it, right? But, he tricked the gullible that are out there that don't vote for her. She's, he successfully used the the Trump thing on her, and he won. Everybody in town pretty much wishes they had a do-over on that one. Our economy sucks. There's people throwing around the bankruptcy word. There's factory, everything's leaving. People are leaving. Businesses are leaving. Our commercial real estate downtown is just a mess. People, like I said, dying, nothing being done about it. There's no plan that's working. We're about to lose 1,000 beds of our facility because they were all just temporary Band-Aid approaches. And now in January, we're going to lose 1,000 of them. So it'll be like a net loss in beds even since this guy took over 4 years ago. So we've gone backwards a lot in all of this. So, I wanted her, the one I was talking about, I really would have liked her to run again, regardless of where we all disagree on different policies. It don't matter right now. This is just, hey, we all agree we got to help humans not die on our sidewalk. We got to fix our infrastructure that literally kills people. We had the people drown in the January 2nd floods from just incompetence. And public safety. Nobody wants to go walk their dog at night. Women don't feel safe going out for a jog. Nobody lets their kids go to the playground. I mean, it's not San Diego anymore. So just those things, we all agree on that. So trying to get somebody to run for office, I reached out to a lot of people, and Bill Walton was a friend before he died. And we worked on some nonprofit stuff with homeless. Tried to get him. He has the name recognition, all that. All these people, I was looking for money and name recognition because you got to have that. None of them wanted to do it. They just, they felt it was just too far gone, or in Bill's case, he had his illness that he ended up dying from not that long ago, but they just didn't want to put themselves out there again. Some of them, their families had been suffered because of retribution of having run against this guy before. So here I was just in a position where, I got 2 little kids and my wife, financially okay. I don't, there's nothing they hold over. I don't do contracts with the city. That's another one, is a lot of the wealthy people are doing contracts with the city. And gosh, if you run against the mayor, you're going to lose these $10 million contracts, that kind of thing. So, I was go ahead and do what you want to do to me. You can throw mud and say I'm whatever I am, it doesn't matter. Because I went into it just saying, hey, long time ago, thought, man, this is really a long shot, but I'm not going to let this guy just walk across the end zone and put the football down and win. He is horrible, incompetent. I work with his staff, or I did. Once I started running, they don't want to work with me anymore, but I used to work with his office all the time. Some nice people, but they don't know what they're doing. So, just felt I had to step up and do something about it. So we decided, it was okay to run, and it's put our plans on hold to retire in a year and just be with the kids. So that's the thing I feel the worst about is, my little kid, my little boy and little girl, she just turned 2 today, and the boy's 3. And, I'm like his favorite person. And my wife and I talk about it all the time. You almost start crying about it, that, you're only going to be their favorite person for a very short period of time. And if I'm signing up for this thing for 8 years, it's going to probably be done at that. So, I'm offering a lot to serve the city that people don't even get, and I already have, they don't know the things running into burning buildings and all that kind of stuff we do, for clowns like this to be running the city into the ground. So that's the only thing that really frustrates me is when I'm in a crowd that doesn't know me. Well, yeah, but what they view me as another politician. And I get it. I'm a guy running for an office. So I am, but I'm not a politician. I don't want to do this. I want to, just because I want to fix our city, and I can't stand seeing people die, but who wants to jump on the grenade? Who wants to charge that machine gun nest, be in that first landing craft, going on D-Day? Nobody does, but I just can't look at myself and let that happen. So when I first started running, it was like, hey, if we lose, but we were able to make him change his azimuth a little bit, on some things, and maybe a few lives were saved, that's a small victory, and that was worth it. But it really kicked up. I mean, we got the name recognition started getting out there, and I'm just not a normal person who's the polished politician. I just say what I mean. And, I'm very blunt about the stuff going on, and take camera crews out to where the ugly is to show people what it's really like. And that's kind of gone a little viral. And now, we're going to win. It's really good. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but we're up in the polls, and, donations are coming in, and we're really doing well. I just had a debate against the guy. I thought he was going to, mop the floor with me, because he's been elected position for like 20 years and been in politics for like 30. And that's all he's ever done. No real job. This was my first debate. I was never even in like the debate club. And, I just went out there and destroyed him. I mean, it was, I couldn't believe it when I was done with the debate. They filmed it and they didn't air it till the next night. And I was just like, man, that felt weird. I felt like I won, but that I shouldn't have. Like I remember seeing my wife in the green room after at the TV studio. I'm like, oh, you did really good. I'm like, no, there's I shouldn't have won. Like it just felt weird being in the moment. But when it aired the next day and I saw it, I'm like, oh my God, how's this guy so bad? He let just this nobody, from the street who most people run for office for like 3 years. I literally started doing it like a year ago. So, had no base of support. We had no money, nothing. And we're winning now. So it's just people are tired of this. And I'm really excited to have be a person to be able to change a city that I don't have strings attached for the party or any donors. As soon as I can't wait for that first person to come in and try to do a quid pro quo thing with me and put them in jail, put that head on the pike, with showing everybody how things have changed. So yeah, it's just gonna be fun being the independent person. We also have a strong mayor form of government there, where the mayor has a lot more authority than in other cities. I don't like that. I want to make it go back, but in the meantime, I have a lot of authority to fix a lot of these problems.
The mayor has a lot of individual power.
Yeah. So it's not even like an executive and legislative. It's like a king, like a Caesar and the Senate. I mean, it's a lot more power. So it used to be he was just the president of the city council, and then they had a city manager who did all that day to day, balance the budget, basic running the business of the city. I want to get back to that because we didn't have these problems.
Did they get rid of they no longer have a city manager?
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you're hiring a politician to run a city that really should be, somebody from the Wharton School kind of showing up who knows how to do that. The Wharton School mixed in with a little bit of plumbing and sewer system knowledge, running the city is where it should be. So, these politicians don't know how to do that. So in 2004, they voted it out into this new system. And it just happened to be that they had a city manager at that time that they didn't like, and they liked that mayor. And so, this is great, because that mayor was good at it. And they've had a few that were good, being that strong mayor. But then you get a guy like this coming in and it's like, whew, man, you gave him the keys to the Ferrari and he's destroyed it. And he wants 4 more years to, fix it. You got to get that kid out of that car.
Hindsight's 2020. But, when you start looking at a short-term solution to a long-term problem. Okay, we don't like the current city manager. Yeah. Here's what we'll do. Yeah. We'll get rid of the position.
Right.
It's bound to backfire on you.
Here it did. Yeah. The people who wrote that, I talked to them. There's some college professors who helped draft that up, and they never foresaw it being as bad as it is in San Diego, because they worked into the way they wrote it that it would only take 6 council members of 9 to override him. And this council right now, they're all the same party, and many of them don't like him, but he's able to convince them, whatever word you want to use, to go along with them. And
you could say manipulate.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of threats against their district. If you don't go with me on this, then your district doesn't get that. It's totally different than my way of thinking about it. So they've been going along with them. So I think everybody's happy with my idea to get rid of it. So much so that it crowds and people cheer when I say that. I think, his spies have reported that back, because I've heard him say that on TV. We're going to look at changing the strong mayor form of government maybe next term. A lot of the things I say that get some applause, it ends up in his speeches, and even at the debate, it was funny. I busted on how horrible he is at a bunch of things, and on all those things. He's had a press conference since then about the new direction he's headed on those. So he definitely listens to me. And here's a funny one. On Monday, last Monday, he had a big press conference on public safety and this new plan. And I'm the community relations officer downtown, and so I talked to all the businesses and the residents there. And myself and my lieutenant, we come up with a plan, and we've pushed that up. And he just went and did a presentation. Obviously, he didn't invite me as the police. I'm still the active police officer down there. And he presented a bunch of the ideas that I've pushed up. He doesn't even know that. I mean, unless he's listening to this, which he isn't, I'm sure. But I just thought it was funny. I might bring that up in the debate this week when it comes up, that his great plan for bicycle teams in the East Village. And it was like, yeah, I guess who thought of that one and who wrote that up, So anyway, it's going to be fun having a chance to really just change the city and have no, owe no favors to anybody.
Has being an independent been, where I'm going with this is, when you actually decided to throw your hat in the ring, did anybody ever come to you and go, okay, it's time for you to pick a side, or did they get behind you and say, hey, you want to be an independent?
Yeah.
Because it seems like from the outsider looking in, when you go towards politics, it's, hey, it's time to pick a side.
Right. And I agree you'd have to do that at state level, you know, and federal for sure. Right. But no, at the city level, technically it's our city law, you know, it's on our books that it's supposed to be a party position. You know, you're supposed to just register, and it won't say D or R or anything next to you, or I even. There's nothing next to your name for these city positions. But they all run, and they run with a party, and it's, you know, they're not supposed to, but they do. But yeah, I had early on this one particular friend of mine, a retired Marine, and he was like, hey, I really think we need to join the Republican Party. I'm like, well, I'm not a Republican. We disagree with the Republicans on this, and I disagree with the Democrats on that. You know, it's just, there's things where I like taking the best from the whole spectrum, you know? And so I just, that's not me. And well, we're not going to have the money and the forces behind us to knock on doors. Well, then fine. You know, I'll lose. I'm not going to change who I am to win this. And so he was the only one, but a good friend who's a mayor nearby town in the city, who is with the Republican Party. I had just met with him, and I said, yeah, these guys, these knuckleheads are like trying to, he goes, no, you just be you, man. And then if you lose, you can sleep at night that, hey, you were you know, you didn't have to do all this phony stuff that other people. And I was going to go that way anyway, but having this very successful mayor tell me that, I was like, yeah, that's cool. It reinforced it. So, you know, I still have some people reach out every now and then, but that's just not me. I'm independent. That's how I'm going to be. I mean, if I had to run for governor or president, I mean, I'd have to choose a party, but I don't ever plan on doing that. So this is me, and everybody can take me or leave me. And if you like the way things are going, then I'm not the guy to vote for. So I tell people that all the time. Hey, if you really dig it the way it is, don't vote for me. But I don't. With me, it just seems like it's mostly people who they'll say vote blue no matter who. He's a Democrat, and you know, they're just afraid to vote for somebody who's doesn't have that brand on them. I didn't get that tattoo on my chest. So, you know, and we are mostly Democrat in this. It's about 25% Republican in the city limits, not in the county. 25% Republican, about 25% independents, and 50% roughly Democrats. And so I got a ton of Democrat support. I just got you know, he goes around now trying to tell them all I'm really me and JD Vance, and he always throws in JD Vance's name with me. Like there was some BS story about $1 million donation to me, which wasn't true. And he used that in his mailers that the Trump Republicans are coming after me with this $1 million donation. And it's come on, man. He always, every time he's talking on TV in his office, he's got Kamala Harris signs behind him to remind everybody, you know, you might not like me, but you know, remember the team. Yeah.
Got to do it in this kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's like, it doesn't even say his name there. It's just got her name. So he's just hoping he goes in on those coattails, because he's a disaster for the city on every category. And I tell people all the time, I'm not saying that because I'm running against it. That's the why I'm running against him. If he was just decent, a C-, I'd be playing with my kids right now and we wouldn't be talking. I mean, it's cool meeting these new people and you and doing this, but like, I'd rather be on a hike right now with my kids or at the beach with them. So, I'm saying these stats and everything. That's the why I'm running. So on everything in the every category, everything's worse than it was when he took over. That's not an exaggeration. I challenge people that are his fans to point out one thing, and they might pull out some statistic that I can then show them how he doctored the number on it. You know, crime is down. Because we let all of our dispatchers go to other cities. Literally, we have this floor of all the dispatchers. You probably had that before too. Like half of them are empty. It's just this open area, all these desks, and nobody's in there. It looks weird. You know, it's like the rapture happening. Where we go? You know, it's just all these desks there, and there's just nothing. That's why people are on hold for so long. They just hang up, or they know the police aren't going to be able to do something about it, or the jail has made it clear they're not going to hold people. So they just don't call it in, and so he takes that as a victory. You know, the people gave up on him. Look, it went down. Well, yeah, people don't call it in anymore. So on any kind of statistic they come up with, it's like, yeah, I know the inside baseball stuff. So I'm able to, in the debates and with the news, point out when they say, well, the mayor says, you know, A, B, and C. I'm like, well, yeah, you know, he just moved homeless people across into Caltrans property. Now they don't count as San Diego people, so he can say he reduced homeless people. Just silly tricks like that I know firsthand how he does them. So, I'm able to shed some light on it.
I think that's the unfortunate thing. As somebody who does not enjoy politics, and I don't get buried in it, and I don't go deep into it, but it's the games that are played.
Yeah.
And we all sit there and say, you know what? If somebody would, me personally, I would like to see the political parties go away. I understand that's not feasible. Just have somebody stand up there and go, this is what I'm for, this is what I'm against, regardless of what umbrella I'm standing under.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand that that's not going to happen. But the bottom line is, can we just do it with some integrity?
Mm-hmm.
Can we just do it with, like, I understand you make a statement, but you're not giving all of the facts about the statement.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same token, it's the attacks on personal, your credibility and who you are as a person. It's like, why does that have to go hand in hand with it? And I know you've been a victim of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff. We had phony mailers go out, and it was the same organization. That's just his political action committee. It's paid for by, and it was the same group on both of them. One says Larry's this liberal guy that they mailed to all the Republican voters, and Larry's a Republican guy, conservative guy that they mailed to all
Which one am I?
Yeah, it was the same one, and both of them said paid for by New San Diego. That was the name of the group. Then they got a Republican woman to run. They paid for it. They got all the signatures and the fees, and so she'd still some of the vote. And this is in the primary. In San Diego, it's just top two, regardless of party. They wanted me to not be in the top two. They had already done polling and knew that there was like, this is going to be tough. So, sued me saying I really don't live in San Diego because I own another property that's outside of the city limit, and it was just a bunch of foolishness. They follow us around with private eyes. They photograph my kids at school. They follow my wife around. They're outside of the house. I mean, she's confronted them before. It's just creepy. There's just a creepy world. Why are you following my wife and kids around, So I told him you could put an air tag on my car, and I really even my staff will be like, man, well, somebody maybe is a spy that's joining our team. I'd let them be. Here's our strategy, right? I'm going to tell the truth about you, and I'm going to do it every chance I get. And we don't have a whole lot of money, and we need some money. I mean, like it's just something everybody knows, and I say to every newspaper reporter that talks to me. So it's like there's nothing come photograph, I wouldn't do this if I, had stuff to come out. Right. So, knowing that there's a lot of money at stake. I mean, there's hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, I'd say, in contracts to a lot of powerful, wealthy corporations that take advantage of San Diego, that they just, and he does it on the cheap. These guys take donations. I mean, for a $50,000 donation to their campaign, they will give out $100 million I mean, they really are cheap. A friend of mine who writes on corruption in Mexico and in the U.S., and he's always laughing about the politicians here just being underpaid, because in Mexico it's like, what's a $2 million contract? I get $1 million of it. Yeah. And down here it's like, just give me like $5,000 and you'll get like, what are you doing? You should get more money if you're going to be corrupt anyway. Might as well get a lot more. But there's going to be some people who are very upset. So I don't take that part lightly. For far less money, they've whacked people. So. But I'm not the regular candidate, so I'm a little more head on the swivel. I've always been, as all of us are. People keep thinking we're hyper vigilant, and we need to go get therapy for that. But I say no, that's how you stay alive. It's not. There's nothing wrong with being hyper vigilant. So I'm fully aware that there's gonna be some people really upset, very powerful, wealthy people. But I'm not gonna cower away from this because let those guys just keep ruining our city, making money off it.
But you bring up a good point for somebody who doesn't have your background and your experience, but gets to a point where like, I'm fed up with how my city's being run. I want to get involved in this, and then experience like you've experienced, your family being followed, your kids having their pictures taken. I could see that being very intimidating to, I'll say, the average person.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, I think so. But I've always just said it's kind of like, to the average person, they kind of view that sort of stuff as getting shot at, or because I'll always say to them, oh my gosh, it's got to be so troubling for you, or so hard, or whatever words they use. And I said, well, when you've been shot at and there's explosions and, this is more like an annoying squirt gun, it's, I don't want to get shot with a squirt gun. Like, but it is, it's a squirt gun. They can do all this stuff. And because I know those guys aren't going to hurt the wife and kids. I know it really bothers my wife. And, when people are saying, hey, we're praying for you, I say, hey, if you only got time to pray for one person, pray for her and the kids. Don't, I'm fine. I can handle this. But I'll take the prayers too. I'm not saying no, but, definitely, yeah, it's something that she didn't sign up for. And, I'm really sorry about that, but I'm not doing this again. We're almost there. It's kind of that when you run in the marathon and you get to that like mile 22, what the hell did I do this for, man? But you're there, you're not dropping out at that, but it's really been rough, on the family. I'm telling you, that's the part that was the worst, but I'm winning now. So it's once we win, wife and kids can be in the office, JFK's little John Jr. under the desk, that picture.
You're bringing Camelot to San Diego.
Hell yeah. Well, his office is already like a bunch of kids up there. So like I just, bring in some toys and stuff and the kids can be up there working with me. So I don't plan on doing a lot of work in the office anyway. We'll be out having our finger on the pulse of the city. And like I said, I want to bring a city manager on anyway. So I already interviewed a few that are going to be, I'll bring them onto a certain position on my staff and they'll be the one I would then hire officially once the city votes on it, but they'll be the one doing it anyway for me. It's my name signing on that stuff, but they're the professional that knows how to do that on a lot of the paying the bills and the basic stuff with sewer systems and roads and all that. They know what they're doing. They've done it for other cities really successfully. So yeah, I'll have the kids with me all the time. I'll give speeches with my little kid was running up to me last night on stage. He got away from my dad and got up on the stage, or not stage, but where the microphone was over there. And I was talking to people and answering questions. And so I just picked him up and I'm just holding him, and then I let him yell something on the microphone for a second and, it's no big deal. And then he just kisses me. I put him down. He runs back to grandpa. And I'll have the kid and the little one in the backpack, hiking around with her. And I mean, not at dangerous places, of course, but I'll do that too. I mean, I'll be in the dangerous places. I plan on riding around with the cops in Third Watch and, going down in the sewer system with those guys. And, I'll be getting very dirty. It'll be like dirty jobs out there or the undercover boss or whatever, going out there and actually working with everybody and seeing where we can find efficiencies in the city.
When you decided to put your name in the ring, from an organization standpoint, did you immediately support it or was there some, oh man? Yeah,
there was some, oh man. Yeah. I mean, they had never seen something like that before. And they were really nervous about it. Some of the people who, especially career-minded people. Some were just, that's great, Larry, and I'll let them remain nameless because, yeah, they could, get in trouble. But they've been super supportive with, meeting me secretly and giving me advice on stuff. But yeah, some people have, said some things I know in like closed door meetings and it's been reported back to me. So, yeah, but overall, I think, I haven't been fired, so I'm okay. But I know that something could come out like an old, like any kind of an incident you were ever involved in, right? Chasing somebody down and having a fight with them, or whatever it might be. Video can always be used. So I know that some BWC video has been attempted to be retrieved. There's nothing bad I've ever done. You always get an accusation. But the IA guys look at it and, you get less accusations nowadays with the BWC because people are realizing like, oh, no, there's a camera there. So it's not I can't just say he did this, they're going to go look at the video and see I'm full of crap. So, so that's been really cool, but just a lot of cheesy, crooked, creepy kind of stuff, that I'm just going to be happy that part's over here soon. So we got about 4.5 weeks left. And then, man, I'm just so happy to go on a little mini staycation kind of thing with wife and kids and just go to a cabin for a little bit and decompress and get to be with each other. And my team already knows what to do. We're having those transition meetings already because I know we're going to win. And like I said, we're already interviewing people for some of those big jobs. So I'm excited to just transition from going out and doing all this. I'll still be in the communities talking to them, but being able to finally start shoveling that giant pile of crap that he's left, all over the city.
It'll be a 4-year term or an 8-year term?
4. Yeah. And honestly, if I could do it on 4, I would happily leave. I think it's going to take 2 to kind of stop the train and just get it going backwards, and going back in the right direction. So it's going to be going to take a little bit of effort to just even get things to stop, that dive. So it'll probably end up being an 8-year thing. And I'm okay with that. I signed up to fix it. So I'll do 8. I'm really confident we can have so much difference really in the 2 years, especially on the crime side of it. The ideas that the chief has that I want to empower him to do. We agree on like 95, 98% of the stuff. So he's going to be a great guy to have. And, the current mayor is letting him do a few changes right now, but he'll be very happy when I'm there and I uncuff him and let him run with great ideas he has. So, making it safer, saving some lives, less people dying. No more pushing homeless people to the Caltrans property. We're getting them hit by cars on Interstate 5. It's because our mayor is pushing them into that area. Like, look, I don't want them on the street either, but I'd rather have them on our street than they're San Diegan, whether they're homeless or not. We're trying to save lives. Come over here to the safer side of the fence, and until we get beds for you, and we'll start doing the beds as well. But like I said, we got 1,000 beds about to go away. I got to figure out a way to, stop that bleeding. I told people at a meeting the other day, I said, it's just like you remember the old first aid was stop the bleeding, start the breathing, treat for shock. And I said, that's what it is right now. It's just stop the bleeding immediately. We're showing up on day one. I have all these great ideas for all this other stuff, but right now we got to stop the bleeding. It's like putting a tourniquet on like every appendage, to stop it. Cause we're hurting everywhere.
So basically I'm going to have you back in 8 years to have you on the podcast, talk about your gubernatorial run.
No. Trust, man. This is, not at all. I would gladly help.
You're going to set the example and all of a sudden you're just going to get pressured into it.
Well, yeah. I said that probably would happen because, we were talking about mayors of big cities in California, right? Like Gavin Newsom with San Francisco and all that. But yeah, I'm very strongly prepared to throw an elbow when that happens. But I have an idea of how we're going to bring people on board. I've already got a team of folks that are the young up and comers. I mean, young, they're in their 40s and 30s, right? But that's that next group and they don't have the name recognition or the money, but I know they're people of integrity. And some of them are registered Democrats, some are Republican. They're just good people. I mean, I know them because I've worked with them for a long time. A lot of the people I asked to be on my team, I didn't know where they stood on because we all agree on, fixing the roads, making it safer, getting homeless people off the street, right? That's not a party thing. But I knew them from my interactions with business associations, whatever. And so I said, hey, I'm thinking of running for mayor. I know you're really smart on XYZ. Can you come on? Oh yeah, I'd love to do that. We had so many team meetings and been going forward for months before somebody would just say to me, oh, you thought I was a Democrat? No, I'm a Republican. Or, oh, you thought I was a Republican? No, I'm a Democrat. And we don't talk about anything. There's none of this Harris Trump stuff. It's about our roads and about our potholes and safety of kids on the bus and all that stuff. So we all agree on that. And we just go that way. So I got this core group of top advisors that they're going to be that next generation, and I'll get them the FaceTime. They will, when most mayors do a press conference, they want the camera on their face the whole time. They might have people standing behind them, but they want to talk the whole time. I'm more than happy to introduce to you this woman or this man who is in charge of this, and welcome, Bob or Sue. And they come to the microphone and everybody in the community starts seeing their face, and it's like cabinet positions, with the president. We all know Blinken and these guys. So kind of same thing at the city level, that those guys and gals, when they're at Costco or at the restaurant, people, hey, don't you work with the mayor's office? They get known for those successes. And if some things don't work out, I'll take the blame. When it's really good, give them the credit. And then I've got this next generation of city council members and mayors and county board of supervisors to really keep the ball rolling with this kind of idea of putting the city first. Go figure, like something so simple, not about campaign contributions and the favors you owe people.
It is definitely an overused analogy, but I will say, listening to you talk and just the basics of let's do what's best for San Diego, and then as a good leader, let me train up and prepare the people that are going to take my spot, as opposed to I'm going to hold on to all the control and it's all me. And something as simple as that. And I'm not necessarily saying you couldn't have learned this had you not been in the Marine Corps, but I'm sure being in the Marine Corps definitely helps this. And that's the one thing I don't think a lot of people really think about is whatever you're doing today, be thinking about the person that's going to take your seat when you move on. And are they fully prepared to be able to hit the ground running without any hiccups because you did everything you could to prepare them?
Yeah.
And when you think about it from a city organization, a city manager, a mayor, whatever it is, has to be thinking to himself, all right, here's what I want to do. Let's get the train moving. But who am I putting on this train to keep the train going when I step off?
Yeah. Yeah. My end goal, I've said this a bunch of times to my team, and I don't know how many of them really believe, but it's true. My end goal is, it's not about the chief stars and all these kinds of things. I want to sit by our fire pit and have the TV on and see a press conference with that team, and I just get a cigar and a scotch and I'm just like watching them. And that would be like, oh man, that's awesome. This is going to go on for another couple decades with these people. I mean, it's going to, someday people will forget the corruption that happened, during these last 4 years. We'll expose all that, and so we want to educate everybody on how they've been taken advantage of for so long. We will definitely expose people. So that's going to be another interesting story all by itself, exposing that stuff. But yeah, they will learn their lesson, and then they will start choosing more wisely, I think. And then, having this going in this direction, I'm hoping that lasts till, even if I live to 100, that San Diego's kind of still going in that direction before it gets tricked again, into the professional politician.
I think, unfortunately, that circle will always come back around at some point in time.
Yeah. No, I know it'll do it sometime. I just,
hopefully not while you're here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't mean to say it that way, because then it could be that I don't live that long. I want to live to 100 and also not see it yet. So I hope it lasts long enough.
Any last pieces of advice, just going back to the whole transition aspect for either veterans or now that you've been wearing both hats, veteran and first responder?
Yeah, I would say there's such a tractor beam pull to stay in the line of work you have had, and I see that even when I would go to those job fairs to recruit for the police department, and there's that young Marine who's, a mechanic on trucks or whatever it is they do, IT stuff, and they want to go into that same field, and I understand that with the young guys and gals that did it for 4 years or 8 years, and they already got the skill set that they like. But the ones that did the career and that you worked on jets, or you were a infantry officer, whatever it was you did, there is always this tendency to look for that consulting job or the private sector that does the same thing, and you stay in that same realm because you just get that warm, comfy blankie of, that world already. And I would say, to think about challenging yourself on it, at least think about it for a little while. And the guy who challenged me was a Navy Master Chief who was in Hawaii, and they had like a senior TAP class for senior officers and enlisted. So there's a bunch of sergeants major, master sergeants, and senior chiefs, and 06s and 05s that were in there. And he came in, and the guy used to be a nuke submariner, and those guys usually end up running a nuke plant. He had all those qualifications and could have done that. He went totally in another direction. And I remember him sharing his experience of, he wanted to have his own golf shop and become a PGA certified golf pro. And then he was the president of the Rotary in Honolulu, and he had some other businesses and just totally different stuff. And he just challenged everybody there that day, like, hey, I know you all probably got job offers. Like for me, it was getting offers in the intelligence field and staying in that. And I could have done that, and I would have been happy. But it was like, hey, think about some things you'd like to do, that if pay wasn't an issue, I started thinking about doing some stuff with real estate investing and teaching high school and coaching and police and the homeless thing. I just explored some of that and researched some of it, and looked into it, and oh my gosh, because a friend of mine had said, there's no age limit on police. And so I was, okay, I looked into it. Yeah, sure enough, there's no age limit. I thought like the FBI had been 37, right? But police departments don't care if you can just jump the 6-foot wall. You're in, right? So the research I did based on this guy saying, hey, look at some other things outside of your comfort zone, and that's changed everything. I didn't take an intel job. I didn't go back to Langley or Fort Meade and join up there and do stuff that, I totally got outside of, my comfort zone, but it's not that uncomfortable. It's not that hard to transition to something else. And my friends who've done the same thing, they've been really happy that they did. It's just, we're going to live a long time now, so have some totally different experiences, do something completely different. And I just challenge anybody listening to this is talking about transitions. Give that a thought, at least. Don't have to stay in your current profession or your skill set. Look into something totally different. And I know that you think that cop and military are similar. There are some similarities there, but not. It's very, very different. I could give you a million examples of where it's been very different for me. But overall, I feel it's very different, and I enjoyed that challenge and felt it was it's been a great second career. This next one, I'm not going to make it a career. I'll be mayor for 8 years and then I'm done. But I would love to, anybody who wants to talk about that kind of stuff, especially transition to law enforcement from the military, I always welcome that and tell people, give my number to that guy, and they're, well, you're too busy. I love talking to a military guy or gal who's thinking about law enforcement, especially in San Diego. Things are going to change and it'll be a great place to be a cop again.
Elections November 5th.
Yeah. November 5th. I'm trying to win by the biggest margin I can. So we're not doing hand counts all night and all that, so
dangling chads.
Yeah, right. And then also, it just shows that there's a mandate there too. So any city council that doesn't want to go along with the new program, they'll understand that he won by such a large margin that we better start going along, or our jobs in jeopardy too.
I've heard you talk about jiu-jitsu before. When you get elected, are you going to do open mats with the mayor?
Sure. Yeah. I got to watch out though. I had a bone density issue, so I got to be a little careful with having rolling around with big guys. But I cracked some ribs not a few years ago now. But but I've been taking my calcium supplements like a good old man, so I'll be all right in the near future. But yeah, I'd love to have a mat in one of those rooms and. I already got some ideas.
Resolve some issues.
Our offices are not going to be like the typical office. So I've already got a whole lot of former military leaders who are going to be on our team, and then mixing that in with a bunch of business leaders I know. So it'll have a whole new flavor of running a city, actual metrics of success, not just how much we paid towards something, or how much effort we put forth. It's about how many lives you saved, how many miles of road you fixed, that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a good time.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, and I appreciate you sharing your time and your story with me.
Oh, I appreciate the offer to come here. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate you watching. But before you go, if you like the video, please hit that subscribe button. Also, any comments are appreciated. Thank you.